All right. So welcome again, and thank you for being here. I feel like just your presence here shows that you're already taking steps to get connected and to find the resources to support you in your creative practice, as well as the community, which is, I think, so important during this time when a lot of us are a little more disconnected than we otherwise would be. I'm going to keep admitting people. So welcome if you're just joining us. Again, this is what's available in Rhode Island to help me write, podcast, publish, and more. We have 4 panelists today, and we're gonna let everyone just introduce themselves and talk about the organizations that they represent and know about to support your practice. I am Jodie Vinson. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve Rhode Island's literary arts community as program manager at What Cheer Writers Club. And the club is a nonprofit serving Rhode Island's writers, illustrators, and podcasters. Our mission is to help Rhode Island creatives feel supported, find community, and have access to the tools that they need to support in their craft. So that's where I'm coming from. I'll talk a little bit about the club before passing it on to my fellow panelists. So the club opened 2 years ago as a co-working space for creatives. So it was really designed with the writer in mind. Behind me, this is actually a Zoom background. You'll see this is the library, and there's little writing nooks between these bookcases. There's also kind of an airy salon with window seats. There's meeting rooms in a classroom and even a podcasting studio. We grew quickly to about 300 members and became something more than a quiet space to work. It really has become a community. And that community has continued during the pandemic, even though the physical location has had to close. So pre-pandemic, we provided community meetups and practicums on the business end of the writing life, like how to get a grant to support your work, as well as a monthly podcasting 101 class. And all of this has continued during the pandemic with 2 changes. Everything is now virtual on Zoom, and those monthly meetups are now weekly. So in order to stay connected, we hold cocktail hours every Friday at 5 p.m. To meet others around certain topics. So we've had fiction writers and podcasters and a talk about book publishing. We've had some local authors on to talk about their process. So even in a virtual environment, we're really trying to open spaces for others to meet and connect and collaborate. Our business practicums have continued as well. And I want to invite everyone here to the next one, which is free and open to the public, and it's happening virtually this coming Thursday, December 10th at 7 p.m. It's called Writing During COVID, and it is a panel of 5 Rhode Island authors, some of you may know. I know a lot of them are ARIA members. Vanessa Lilly, Michael Fine, G. Wayne Miller, Padma Venkatraman, John Land, and that will be moderated by Bill Bartholomew. So I'll get a link to that event in the chat. Again, it's free. You can register to get the link to the Zoom call. And I will also place links to What Cheer Writers Club's website and other resources that we have in the chat as well. And then I'll upload that handout. But for now, and I'm happy to talk about more resources and other organizations I know of in the area, but for now, I'm just gonna pass it off to Ruby. Ruby, do you wanna introduce yourself?
Of course, thank you so much, Jodie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruby Fink. I'm hailing from California right now, so it's a little early for me. Got my cocoa right here to keep me awake. I started off as sort of an audio editor, podcaster. Along those lines, I established Faux Fiction Audio about 5 years ago. We collaborated on multiple projects together, and we had about 20 voiceover actors, editors, digital artists, what have you, and created about 8 audiobooks in the past 5 years, give or take. That personally was a lot of fun for me. I made a lot of great memories off of that. I also have worked as a barista for Fictional Cafe, which was a lot of fun for me. I like to go out and find podcasts from all over and just put them up every other week or so, and that is also a lot of fun. Currently, I'm working as a ghostwriter for Hanai Publishing, and that means that I get to take other people's ideas and stories and bring them to life in a new additional way. So my business is primarily to take whatever stories I'm either given or that I have inside my crazy little head and bring them to life. And that is a little bit of me. So I'm going to pass this on to Mike, I believe, and he can go from there. My,
Uh,
sorry.
Hi, I'm Mike Mavili at Rochester. I'm an editor at the Fictional Cafe literary magazine. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do and then give some tips and resources for writers submitting to literary magazines. So Fictional Cafe is a nonprofit literary magazine. We're all volunteers. We don't make any money. It's free to join, free to submit, and we're ad and agenda free. We publish novel excerpts, short stories, including flash fiction, poetry, all forms of visual art, and audio productions such as audio dramas and audiobook chapters. As an editor at Fictional Cafe and on the editorial board, I review submissions, and also I'm the editor for the FC Anthology, which is our best of print book. It's called The Strong Stuff. Actually, got one right here. And we're hoping for actually to print another anthology maybe in 2021. We'll see. I'm also a ghostwriter and editor for both fiction and nonfiction authors. I'm currently working on my third book with an author who writes about how to improve public education. So just wanted to give a few words on submitting. So I'm a writer myself, and I know that it's challenging being a writer and submitting to literary magazines. Sometimes it can just be downright heartbreaking with rejections, but I have a couple of tips to keep you sane while you're submitting. So the first is do your research on where you're submitting. At the Fictional Cafe, we often get content that just doesn't match the format that we publish, for example, essays or political commentaries. So I suggest that you read some of the work that they publish and see the caliber and style of content they go for. Next, I'd say seriously consider any changes or commentary they suggest. We sometimes offer editorial advice at the Fictional Cafe. So if a literary magazine does offer that, take the time to envision your work with their recommended edits. It can be hard to accept alterations to our work, but their voices are unbiased, unlike some of our friends and family, coworkers, or even writing groups who might read our writing. And they will also show you a path to publication. Anything other than a no means maybe. That said, if their edits don't fit with your overall vision of the work, you can thank them for their offer and decline it. It doesn't hurt to ask if they'd be interested in another piece of yours. Often we see an author's talent, but their particular work isn't a good fit for us, so we ask them to submit another piece. It's not unusual for us to accept the second or even the third submission from a particular writer. And then my last tip is building a relationship with the editors. I really suggest being a person, not a Word document. We have many recurring writers on our site. Some of them I've gotten to know pretty well over the years. And we publish so many works, often without even knowing more than the person's name. So when an author whose work we accepted takes the time to either thank us or let us know that they've spread the word, friends and family, or just simply found a way to connect with us in any way, where they're from, common interests, whatever. It really makes us more willing to go out of our way to help them out. So maybe we'll offer them a lead on other publications, which may be great for their work, or offer them help with their edits, something like that. And sometimes we ask sometimes we ask writers who had interesting journeys in life to write guest blog posts for our site. And that's just another way that we can really promote some of the people that we think are doing great work out there and are making the effort to connect and establish relationships. But I suggest, being on friendly terms with a handful of editors, which can open doors for you that you probably wouldn't have access to otherwise. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of literary magazines that I suggest. These are ones that either we've had some contact with, or I've just looked over their stuff and think they're great. So Riverbird magazine, actually based in Nigeria. Perhappen magazine, Fractured Lit is doing some really cool things, as well as Entropy magazine, small print magazine, Rust and Moth magazine, Black Warrior Review, which is out of the University of Alabama, and Ghost City Press, which I know a few authors published in, and Flash Fiction magazine, if you write flash fiction. They actually are a couple of flash fiction specific publications out there. So if that's your niche, you may want to consider some of those. Now I've got a list of more literary magazines that I suggest in the attached document. Well, that's it for me. Thanks everyone. And if you have any questions or want to continue the discussion afterwards, I'm available after this panel on Zoom. And my contact info is in the attached document as well. Thanks.
Okay, I'm next. My name is Dominic Perri. First and foremost, I'm a writer. So I'll definitely be checking out your resources and looking into flash fiction and potential places to publish short stories. But I went through, got my MFA, graduated from there, from Goddard, and then started my own writers conference to kind of condense a lot of the stuff that I learned within my program to offer it to an underserved community in New Bedford, Massachusetts, because a lot of the conferences are very expensive, and my organization, Hollihock, doesn't really believe in having sort of a pay-to-play entry. So we're really trying to offer services for a very low price compared to other conferences that are out there. Since running that for 5 years, we've transitioned into kind of doing larger kind of projects. So I've started doing hollihock.com. It's really a resource center. So you can find editors, it'll match you up with that. If you're looking to apply for an MFA program or MA program, you're able to search based on parameters that you're looking for. If you're looking for one that in New England area, you can do that. If you're looking for one that is completely paid, you can really drill down to that. We also just launched a webinar tool. So if you are an author or an organization, it is fully functional and integrated into the platform. So you could launch your own book tours or book events. If you're an organization, you can have book clubs, different types of events that are paid or for free. So we're really targeting organizations that are in the writing community, but also bookstores and libraries, and also places that have workshops and classes to really bring it onto the virtual area. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'll pass it back to Jodie.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Mike and Ruby. Such rich resources, and it's so encouraging to hear about them right now. And Dom, thanks for collecting a lot of those resources through your work at Hollihock.
No
That's
problem.
a great resource. Yeah. I guess I wanted to mention a few more organizations in the area that are providing, as Dom mentioned, writing classes and other ways, other things that can support your work. Of course, the Association of Rhode Island Authors, we're all here because of them. I wanted to mention them, and I have links to these organizations on the handout, which I'll upload again at the end. AS220, of course, focus on the visual arts, but at times has podcasting and other interview classes and other things that are adjacent to, I think, the writing practice. Frequency Writers, Goat Hill Writers, and even Grub Street in Boston have been offering craft classes. There are some virtual offerings through those organizations available now during the pandemic. The Writers Loft, not far away in Massachusetts, the studios at Mass MoCA, which offer writers residencies and often have fellowships or low-cost opportunities for people, as well as the RI Writers Colony, open to writers of color to come and write and stay post-pandemic. And I want to mention the PRX Podcast Garage in Boston, which has some podcasting classes as well. So those are just some organizations in the area. And I think for me in my own life, or things I've seen at the club, writing craft classes can be a great way to start forming community and to meeting people, because it's an intimate experience to share your work with others, and a great way to find a writing group, even if that's what you're looking for, to branch off of those classes. So I guess I just encourage everyone to start building that community, even during a time when we can't meet in person. There are ways to do that through these organizations. And it's something that, a lot of writers or creative types are introverted, but it's still something we crave and need, that community to support us and to learn about other resources. So I know at the club in our co-working space, it's when we were open, people would come and just kind of right away in their corners quietly, but then they would also gather around the coffee pot and, share these resources and stuff. So what your Writers Club is looking for ways to keep those little conversations going virtually. So again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions about way you can plug into those events or resources that we offer. I'm happy to share more. Ruby, I don't know, do you have some other resources for people who are looking into audiobooks or podcasts or recording?
And I do apologize, I did breeze through that quite quickly. I was like, well, I think I forgot a few things. Well, as far as the whole audiobook process, I'm happy to talk about that in length, but that's a whole other lecture. If you do have audiobooks you are trying to just get out and promote, however, I have found that Facebook is a very reliable resource in that respect. I was just doing a broad search and there are at least 20 different Facebook groups you can be a part of that are helping with promotion. One in particular that's my favorite is called Shamelessly Promote Your Own Book. And they just allow you to post the links, post your pictures, every information you have on it, and lots of people come and they check them out. But there's other ways you can look into it as well. Authors Republic is also a great resource to have. It is more of a distribution network than anything else. It's not going to help with marketing. However, if you submit a print book and an audio book, then it is they can help get it out to Audible. They can get it out to virtual bookstores. They can get it to just every single place where audiobooks are out there. You can also, one resource that I have found that is very effective, because you are creating, when I was doing a lot of free audiobooks and podcasts, you needed to create an RSS feed. That is, I'm trying to think of the simplest way to explain it, but essentially that is going to be the embed code for your audio book. There are ways to do it yourself. I would not recommend it. So essentially you can go to SoundCloud, they will create a free RSS feed for you, and then that way you can just submit it to iTunes, you can submit it to Spotify, you can submit it to a whole bunch of places. And if you're thinking that it's just a music platform, no, it is not. They have podcasts, they have audiobooks, and you're going to need an RSS feed for that. So if you want to get a free one, SoundCloud is the way to go in that respect. Do you want me to talk about how to actually make an audiobook? Because that could take a while. Short version, essentially, you're going to want a narrator. Unless you're doing it yourself, you're going to want someone who can edit your story together. And first and foremost, you're going to want a manuscript, because that's going to just get the ball rolling on your story. Probably going to need that. But if you're going to try and do this all yourself, please don't do that. You would really like to find someone who's a good narrator. You're going to want to find someone who's experienced in editing. Those are some of the resources you can find in the handout that is off to the side. Please look into that. You can check out several options I have for you as finding narrators, as far as finding editors. 123 Pond is an option. There's no 123.com, Pond 5, ACX, of course. I know some people don't like it, but it does have great narrators that you can find in order to get your book out there. I will warn you in advance, when you're trying to make a book into an audiobook, it's going to run into the $2,000 range. That's normal. If you're going to do it all yourself, you're going to waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to do it, rather than just a little bit of money in order to get your book out there. Let's see what else I can talk about. Jodie, I think I've covered everything so far. If anybody has questions about the audiobook process, about podcasting, I am happy to go into more detail, but just giving a broad scope over everything, it's a lot of information, so I'm just going to leave it at that, actually.
I should go through my my list, if you don't mind. The list that's in the document shared, I kind of started with larger helpful writing platforms. So Readsy is a really good one for editorial services. You can just search exactly what you're looking for. If you're a mystery writer, you can find editors that are in their mystery range. Wattpad's a good social storytelling platform for you to kind of share your stories with other people and start building really momentum around your writing itself. BookBub actually is based in Boston. That's a great tool for getting your book out there. They do have some kind of rather challenging curriculum, or not curriculum, but requirements of when you are submitting to that. So you might send it in there and they actually might reject it and you have to try a couple of times, but they do have a good platform for getting your book out there. Scribophile is a good online writing group if you're looking to kind of find an online writing community. Submittable is a great submission manager platform. So like Mike was saying, if you're looking to submit to a lot of publications, you'll find many of them on there. So you can be in one platform and submit to multiple places. And bookshop.org, which is a new organization. They're great for finding books from your local bookstores, especially in like a pandemic situation like right now. Great New England conferences, there's a lot of them out there. Boston Book Festival has a great free one. Breadloaf, which you actually have to submit work to really get involved with that. But there's a submission and there's also like an entry fee to be a part of that. Cape Cod Writers Center Conference, Frost Place Conference on Poetry, Green Mountain Writers Conference, Grub Street has a great one, Using the Marketplace. If you're a member, I think they give you a big discount because the fee can be up there. Martha's Vineyard Writers Conference, Massachusetts Poetry Festival. And also, I'm going to plug my Hollihock Writers Conference is also a 3-day conference with classes, workshops, panel discussions, and keynotes. And hollihock.com also has a lot of ways that you can search for editors for free and find other retreats and residencies if you're interested in that. Although I don't know many places are right now having residencies and retreats, but you can drill down to exactly where you want to be. And if you want to go to Italy, you can find ones there. So that's what I got.
Awesome. So much good information. Mike, do you have anything, I mean, no pressure, but if you have anything more to share before we maybe open it up to questions, or anyone?
Yeah, one brief thing, we talked about publishing. KDP, which is Amazon's self-publishing channel, it is a great way to get your book out there, especially if you have limited funds and if you have some time to learn it. I've published one book through KDP and probably another one this spring. And, I had no experience with doing any of that stuff, but it's definitely a cool resource for you. Get your book right up on Amazon. So for anyone considering it, look into it and see if it's right for you. Otherwise, there are a lot of great small publishers out there. I work with one all the way out in Arizona called Wheatmark Publishing. There's like a very small organization, but they're cool. They're good to work with. But yeah, if you've got the money for it, the small publishers are good too.
That's great. Thanks for all the great resources shared, everyone. And I know these are difficult days, and especially if you're new to a community or just starting out, it can be hard to know how to connect and find those resources right now, but they are out there. The handout has them listed. And the other kind of silver lining, I think, to if there is a silver lining to these times, is a lot of things are available to you virtually. So things you may not have been able to access because of geographic barriers or mobility issues, you can now access online fairly easily. So even though we're here to share about resources in Rhode Island, and it's so wonderful to have so many local resources at our fingertips in this state. There are, other virtual craft classes and organizations that are offering resources for you that you can now access online. So, other writing centers like Hugo House in Seattle, Rochester, the Loft Literary Center in Minneapolis, Lighthouse in Colorado. All of these places, you know, offer resources as well. So just want to put a little silver lining on these difficult days. All right, anything else, panelists, before we open up to questions, or are you ready to take questions?
Go for questions.
Yeah,
All
right.
right.
I'm actually kind of curious. I don't know if people want to chat, throw it in their chatter, but if people have attended this conference before in person, obviously, or if they're new or they're from, you know, where they're from.
Yeah, that's great. Please do introduce yourself or feel free to share in the chat. You can also put questions in the chat, or you can unmute and ask your question out loud. Don't be shy. Each panelist obviously has a lot of expertise in different areas. All right, thank you, Mark. Mark asks, any resources or advice on getting books into independent bookstores, especially in Rhode Island?
Talk to Stephen Porter. That's Stillwater. He has a whole shelf that has local authors from Providence and New England area. That's an easy one.
Yeah, that's great. And I think just building relationships too over time with local booksellers can be helpful, you know, shopping there and supporting them in their work too, and getting to know them and their events, and, you know, making sure your book is like a good fit in their bookstore, and kind of doing the legwork, I guess, for them, because their booksellers are overwhelmed right now, you know, too. So
yeah, I find that in Rhode Island, every single live bookstore that I've gone into has had like a local books people like that. So there's always, I mean, I live right now, or I did live in like the east side of Providence, and our little bookshop had that area that had all of the local authors. So I think that's an easy way to do that, is just go in and say, hey, I have this new book. Really self-promote yourself.
I could also give a suggestion depending on your genre, but I work a lot with children's books, and you can reach out to the school specifically and let them know that you have books that they can put in their stores, and explain to them how it might be good for the kids, what it would do to benefit them. You can also talk to the local bookstores and see if they'd be willing, well, you might not be able to do it right now, but see if they'd be willing to let you come and do a reading, and that can also get you some promotion as well. One thing I have been seeing recently is, instead of just going to the bookstores, get it out yourself. I see a lot of authors, they are doing videos of themselves reading the books and promoting themselves that way, and that can also be very beneficial as well. You are going to have to do a lot of self-promotion and possibly give away a lot of your books for free in order to establish some ground in the first place. I remember hearing one best-selling author say to me, 5% of my work went into writing my story, 95% of it went into promotion. So that's just something to prepare for right off the bat, and good luck on that journey for sure.
thanks, Jodie. Oh, sorry.
No problem. Go for it.
I was just going to say that there was just a great panel previous to this one at 10 with IP&E Charlotte, who's with us, did on virtual events. And Charlotte, if I know that was recorded, so if you could put in the chat if that's going to be available somewhere, people might be interested in that, as Ruby was suggesting.
Yes, it definitely will. It'll be on ipne.org. And like you mentioned, you know, we're more of the publishing process, so I think we complement a group like ARIA pretty well in getting your book out through the publishing production process.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Speaking of resources, Alex has a long message here of where he went to Phillips Exeter Writing Academy. They have a George Bennett writing position that they do, I think, every year, or maybe it's every 2 years, of where if you have a book in progress, you can apply to their school and you could be you could work on your book. And I think that all the requirements are that you have like open hours for your to have open hours with the students that are going through the program. So that's another resource out there that if you are an aspiring writer, or you have a book or a book that you are working on, you could submit to Phillips Exeter Academy. If
Awesome.
that is the right one. I know there's 2 Phillips Exeters. I'm thinking that's the right one.
Yeah, that's the one in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Alex. And Mike, I wonder if you want to address Teresa's question in the chat. Any advice on how to select an editor before you submit work as our submissions expert?
It's definitely, it's a partnership, really. You know, the author I'm currently working with, we got put together, I guess, by a suggestion, actually from Jack, who's in the chat. Hi, Jack. And it worked out. So my author writes about public education, and I actually have a minor in education from college, and was doing teaching for a little bit. So it was something that I was passionate about, and I loved that we could connect on the topic. For nonfiction, I think it's not important, but it's definitely a good plus. For fiction writers, yeah, I mean, I would see what the person has written or what books they've worked on. It's definitely something that it takes a lot of time to get that that relationship going. For me, I'm on my 3rd book with this author, and it's like, you know, we're like telepathy going on at this point. So the more you can work with that person, the better. I know some famous authors have had editors who've worked with them throughout their career. And if you could find somebody like that, I think it's a huge benefit to your writing. In terms of specifically how to meet them, networking is a great way. Doing events like this, you meet a lot of people who are writers and editors. I think they go hand in hand a lot of times. And then specific resources, I'm trying to think. Editorial Freelancers Association, I think, is a good one. One of my coworkers, Michael Peakney, recommends that. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say EFA is great. That was one of the first places that we reached out to for Hollihock to like pull editors in there. So we have a bunch of editors on hollihock.com that you can search like based on what they do. But they come with very high regards. I mean, you have to really be a professional editor in order to get involved in that.
Yeah. And that's a good point, Dom. Like, it depends on where you are in your writing process. You know, some people, they've got, you know, 5 or 6 books out there and they're looking for an editor. That's you know, you want to go for someone who's really experienced and knows what they're doing. You know, if you're just starting out, sometimes someone who's also on your level can be helpful too.
Yeah, I think also a lot of times there are, when you are looking for editors, there's a wide swath of where someone could say that they're a professional, but they've never really been in there, and they kind of pad their editorial background. So just be very careful and wary of doing your research, that you're not, you know, just going for the lowest price, because the lowest price can really sort of be detrimental to your writing if it's your first time doing having someone look at your work for editing purposes.
Yeah. Especially sites like Fiverr, where you don't really have to have done anything and you can, you know, kind of fudge it. So yeah, you want to see people's specific writing, make sure they've actually done work, and, you know, have to do your research as well, make sure they're the right person.
Someone brought up they're writing a children's book, and I just tossed out the SCBWI, which is like a great organization for children's book authors and illustrators that if you're looking to get into that space, that's a great opportunity to join a community and learn a lot of other people that are in that. And I know they have just a gigantic community that's all around the area. They have different chapters in New England and across the country.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Great resources. Does anyone else have a question? We have about 5-6 minutes left. Feel free to unmute and ask a question, or keep them coming in the chat. while we're waiting to the editorial question, and there's book editors, there's editors of literary journals. Also, if anyone's looking to pitch freelance pieces, I've found recently myself as a writer that Twitter is actually a great resource in that you can find individual editors that list their specialties at whatever publication you're looking at and look at and often tweet about what specific pitches they're looking for. And you can start even building relationships over Twitter. So that's just something I've become aware of recently. So I thought I'd throw that out there.
Someone's asking about our recommendations on best author website design apps. I wouldn't spend that much time on your site. I would go through Wix or Squarespace personally. I've spun up a bunch of sites just through that, and it takes no time, takes no design experience. It's just all plug and play. You put your picture where they have the picture, you put your information where you need to for your social media, you do a little bio, and you have a website. That's what I would do personally. I don't know if anyone else has any other better recommendations. No. Okay.
I think that's great. I've had a similar experience with the templates at Squarespace and Wix. They're fairly intuitive.
Great. I use Wix myself. It took only a few days to figure out, and I am, well, it only took a few days, so that's the best part. If you do need help, though, I will still go back to Facebook as a way to recommend places to go, because there is always somebody there who knows how to do the job better. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, I use Wix for my author. I built him a website, and the Fictional Cafe is a WordPress page. I don't have any background in computer programming, anything like that. Wix was incredibly easy, and you actually can do the designing right there. With WordPress, it's more of a template, but both of them I found to be pretty easy to use.
Any further questions? We have a few more minutes. Feel free to ask. Any questions about writers' conferences, submission opportunities, publishing in audio, podcasts, craft classes, other orgs. Or if you have resources that you're familiar with that you'd like to share with the group, pop those in the chat or let us know. You can just openly share those with each other.
Just to piggyback off what you said, Jodie, about Twitter, Twitter's a great community for writers. Pretty much anyone that's involved in writing is on Twitter, which is great. It's pretty interactive, and I like doing the chats. I think Story Social was a chat that I was on for a while. A lot of authors just talking about craft and how to get their work out there. I think they did like a Tuesday night every week. It was great, and there's a bunch out there.
Just to kind of go off of that and what we were talking about, like about the website and Twitter. I mean, it is expected as an author to have sort of an author platform these days and do that. And a lot of the publishers are not gonna be pulling a lot of that weight for you. And so I mean, even as a conference director, I mean, I look at social media pages to see what their following is and what their reach is and how active they are on their main homepage too. Like, have they been involved with events lately? Have they done something in the last 2 or 3 years? Have they not? Because showing activity to me shows that they're like very involved in their community and actively being a part of that. And to be a successful author, I find that to be kind of just necessary to get out there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I was saying earlier, you need to be a person when you're a writer. The more you can truly connect with people, the more they're gonna be interested in your work. It's not just about dropping links in Twitter chats or, you know, Zoom chats, whatever. It's really that interactive piece. I know that there are a bunch of writers from the Story Social chat that I used to do, where, you know, they're not promoting their books, they're just being a person, and you click on their profile and you say, oh, there's this book. Another great way to get people to consider buying your book is giving away a little bit of it for free. I know that some people do that where they either write a prequel and they'll just give that away for free. So people are like, oh, I want to know what happens next. I'll buy the book, or, you know, a couple of chapters. And a lot of people do that on Twitter. And they'll have a special or a promo for people that follow them.
Thanks, Mike. I really like that point about just kind of being authentic and building community and relationships in that authentic way. So I think that really, it can take longer than just a quick marketing scheme, but it really pays off in the end, and is also just rewarding to do anyway. So I think really that's what this panel kind of is about, and what those resources that we have in our handout can guide you toward and connect you with other people who are doing similar things, and who can share more resources and platforms for you to get your work out into the world. Any last questions? We're at 11:45, so we'll need to wrap up. Any last comments from our panelists or questions from the audience?
I was just gonna say, like, once I was writing in a room by myself for a while, and once I honestly went through an MFA program and I found a community, and I said, oh, like, people, like, I'm able to have craft talks with other people. I'm able to discuss these things that are like so personal to me. It's a connection unlike anything else. And I'm sure you see that at all your organizations and all the things that you do as well, is once you find that community and you grow with it, it's a great rewarding feeling.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for being here. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of the conference. I hope you go off to another panel or meet another author, and just continue to build your community here in Rhode Island. And thank you, panelists, Ruby, Mike, and Dom. It's been
had fun.
Thank you for all your wonderful resources. Just email us and reach out if you have any other questions or want to continue the conversation.
All our emails are in that doc that we shared. So reach out.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful conference.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.